Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Athlete Economy. I am Ishanvi, a grade 9 student from Mysore, India, and I am super excited and a little nervous to begin this journey with you. When we think about sports, we usually think about players, trophies, and big match moments. But behind every game, tournament, and championship, there's a powerful commercial system running in the background. There are teams managing sponsorships, media rights, branding, athlete partnerships, broadcasting deals, ticketing, and operations. Today's episode is all about understanding that invisible system, the commercial engine that keeps sports running. Before we begin, just a quick note: the athlete economy is about real conversations and honest insights from professionals who work behind the scenes. So, today we're going to understand how sports truly functions as a business. And now I'm very excited to welcome our guest. Hello, sir.
Hi Shanvi, how are you doing?
Good, sir. What about you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me, Shanvi.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to have you here. Akash Tiwari is an MBA graduate in sports management and a rising professional in India's sports business ecosystem. Currently working at SportWatt, where he focuses on strategic partnerships and growth. Previously at Sportsworks, he supported business development, coordinated RFP proposals, and managed client interactions. He worked on campaign execution for major properties like the IPL and ICC tournament, developing media plans and advertising packages during his time at the media end. He also writes about the future of Indian sports business, sharing ideas such as centralized college premier league and hyperlocal brand athlete partner strategies. Akash represents a new generation of sports professionals, blending marketing, analytics, sponsorship strategy, and grassroots thinking to shape the future of sports in India. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Shanvi. That was a very generous introduction. And I honestly think it's amazing that you are starting a podcast like the Athlete Economy at such a young age. No, because conversations about the business side of sports are still relatively new in India. So I'm really excited to be part of this conversation today.
Thank you, sir. I'm very excited too. And now, before we jump into the business side of sports, I would love to start on a personal note. You've studied sports management and worked on IPL campaigns, sponsorship planning, and sports marketing strategies. If you had to describe your journey in the sports industry so far in one sentence, what would it be?
If I had to describe my journey in one sentence, I'd say it's been a journey of understanding how media and business actually powers the world of sports. Like many people working in this industry, I also started as an athlete and a sports fan. But when I studied sports management and started working across organizations like the media and Sportsworks and SportWatt, I began to understand the bigger ecosystem. I learned about things like sponsorship strategy, media planning, broadcasting partnerships, and how technology platforms are helping give visibility to athletes and tournaments, right?
Okay, I love that. And it connects perfectly with today's topic, the commercial engine behind sports. Most fans see this final match, but they don't see the sponsorship negotiations, the media right deals, the brand strategy meetings, the operational planning, the revenue models. So, today I want to understand how this commercial system actually works. From your experience working around major events like premium leagues and international tournaments, what are the primary revenue streams that make big sporting events financially sustainable? Is it media rights, sponsorships, ticket sales, merchandising, or a combination? And in India, which revenue stream do you think drives this engine the most?
That's actually very interesting question because when people think about sports, they actually usually think about the game itself, not the business behind it. And from a business perspective, most major sporting events run on three key revenue streams: media rights, and the second would be sponsorships, and the third is fan-driven revenue like ticketing and merchandise. So globally, media rights have become the biggest driver because big broadcasters and streaming platforms are willing to pay huge amounts for live sports content. And live sport is one of the few things people still watch in real time. And in
Yeah.
India as well, premium leagues and international tournaments earn a significant portion of their revenue through broadcasting deals. Yeah. So the second major revenue source is a sponsorship. So where brands associate themselves with leagues, teams, or athletes to build visibility and connect with fans. Like if you look at the major leagues, broadcasting and sponsorships together usually form the financial backbone of the entire sports ecosystem. So in simple terms, I would say the sports economy works because media companies, brands, and fans all come together to support the ecosystem. Yes.
Okay, wow. That's a wonderful insight. Thank you for that. Moving on, you have worked on brand partnerships, decks, and campaign execution. From the outside, sponsorships to us look like logos on jerseys. But from the inside, how do sports organizations design sponsorship packages and how do they prove return on investment or ROI to brands? What makes sports a more powerful branding platform than regular digital advertising?
Yeah, so that's also a really interesting point because sponsorships look very simple from outside. Most people just see a logo on a jersey or on the boundary boards, but in reality, sponsorships are very strategic partnerships. Sports organizations usually create multiple labels like the title sponsor, associate sponsor, digital partner, and each package includes things like broadcast visibility, stadium branding, social media integration, and sometimes athlete collaborations. And to answer your question, how do they prove ROI? So basically, brands usually evaluate sports sponsorships based on three things: visibility and engagement, and the third is association. So visibility is the easiest to measure. This includes things like time exposure, TV exposure time, digital impressions, and social media reach. And in sports broadcasting, there's a method called logo exposure analysis or brand visibility tracking. So what basically happens is that the entire match footage is analyzed using software. So the system
Okay.
tracks whenever a sponsor logo appears on screen. It could be on players' jersey, boundary boards, or even LED panels. So
Okay.
then it looks at a few things like how long the logo was visible, how big it looked on screen, how clear it was, and roughly how many people were watching at that moment. So based on all of this, analysts estimate something called the media value. So for example, if a logo is visible, let's say for 10 seconds during a match that millions of people are watching, they can estimate what it would have cost the brand if they had brought the same visibility as a regular ad. So lot of sports analytics companies actually doing this regularly. But one important thing to understand is that this doesn't measure direct sales. It mainly evaluates media exposure and brand visibility.
Okay.
So yeah, and the second element is fan engagement. So today brands don't just want passive exposure; they want interactive campaigns. For instance, during the tournaments, you must have seen contests like fan prediction games, interactive polls, etc. And the third and most powerful factor is what I personally think is emotional association. So sports
Okay.
create emotional moments like last minute goals, championship wins, comeback stories. And when a brand is associated with those moments, it becomes memorable. So that is why many
Makes
brands
sense.
prefer sports sponsorship over traditional advertising. So they are not just buying ad space; they are becoming the part of the movement. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. That was that's a really strategic move. Thank you for that. Thank you for that insight. Moving on, broadcasting deals now are worth billions, but does the commercial value of media actually influence which player gets visibility and recognition? For example, do broadcasters choose to feature certain players because they are more marketable, even if another player is equally talented? And is that fair to athletes?
Yeah, so media rights have become one of the biggest economic drivers in sports today. Broadcasters invest huge amounts because sports content brings real-time viewership, which is incredibly valuable in the digital era. And now regarding visibility of players, media coverage can definitely influence and which athletes become more recognizable. Sometimes broadcasters highlight players who are more marketable, more popular with audiences, or who have strong personal stories. So this doesn't mean other players are less talented. It's more about storytelling and audience engagement. But ideally, performance should always remain the main factor. In many in many ways today, sports leagues operates very similarly to media and entertainment companies. Like they create content, they build audiences through their content and behind the scenes stories, and then they monetize that attention through media rights, sponsorships, and digital engagement. So storytelling has become a very important part of how sport is presented to fans today. Yes.
Okay, that too is another powerful strategic move, and that does help the people there a lot. Thank you for that insight. Moving on, you've also spoken about the idea of an Indian college Premier League. Why do you think India hasn't built a centralized, commercially powerful college sports system like the NCAA? What needs to happen structurally and commercially for that to become a reality?
You know, Ishami, college sports is honestly one of the biggest untapped opportunity in India. In countries like the United States, college sports have become a huge ecosystem because universities invest heavily in sports infrastructure, scholarships, and broadcasting partnerships, and they have structured leagues. So the NCAA works almost like a professional league for college athletes. In India, college sports is still quite fragmented. But however, I think the potential is massive because India has thousands of colleges and millions of students. We have competitions. The Association of Indian Universities, AIU, conducts 200 plus events annually, and then we also have the Khelo India University Games. But there isn't a centralized league structure connecting universities, broadcasters, and sponsors. If that ecosystem develops in the future, college sports could become both in India, a strong talent pipeline and commercially viable sports property. Yes.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you for that insight. Moving on to the next question. Large tournaments involve sponsors, broadcasters, athletes, vendors, and thousands of moving parts. From your experience, what are some operational challenges people don't see? How do organizations balance cost, efficiency, and quality while protecting brand value?
So one of the biggest realities of sports event is that they are extremely complex operations. Fans see the final match, but behind the scenes there might be hundreds of people coordinating simultaneously. For example, during a live sports broadcast, you have production team, there are camera operators, then they have graphics teams, then there is commentator, then there are people who are responsible for sponsorships, and there are people from venue operations, there are securities and logistic teams. So all of these need to work perfectly together. One challenge that often surprises people is time pressure. So when sports events are live, there is no pause button, right? So if any technical issue happens during a live broadcast, the team has only seconds to fix it. So yeah. And another challenge is balancing cost and quality. So organizers must deliver a professional experience while managing budgets, vendor coordination, and sponsor expectations. So the best event succeed because of detailed planning and uh, you know detailed planning months before the event. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of hard work is put by the organizations and the team. Hats off to them. Thank you for letting us know about that and for everyone watching. Now, moving on to the last question. Since the athlete economy is hosted by a student and listened to by young people, what advice do you have for students who want to work in the sports industry? Is sports management only about loving sports, or is it more about understanding finance, marketing, and analytics?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is that working in sports is amazing, definitely, right? But it's important to understand that the industry is much bigger than just playing the game. So, sports organizations need professionals in marketing, analytics, finance, media production, operations, and technology. So, if a student loves sports, the best approach is to combine that passion with the professional skills. Student
Okay.
can start by volunteering at local tournaments, doing internships, or even creating sports content online like you. And the sports industry in India is definitely growing, and there are many opportunities for people who are curious and willing to learn. So passion is important, but developing skills are in an industry knowledge is equally important. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such an insightful conversation, and I have learned so much about how the commercial engine behind sports actually works. And thank you to everyone listening to the very first episode of The Athlete Economy. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes exploring how sports really functions as an industry. See you in the next episode of The Athlete Economy. Bye.